Hello friends, and hello enemies. This is the future of
blankety, blankety, blank!
The show where I take out all my pent-up nerd energy by thinking up ways of evolving and modernizing some of the best franchises in gaming, shamelessly drooling out my wishes and ideas, and as a result, make arrogant suggestions to artists about their own work that will most likely go completely unheard by anyone.
Bullshit!
I started this series years ago back when I first started my channel, but I recently decided to remake the first 10 episodes with A, better editing, B, better voice recording quality, and C, a better name. This was my original name for the series.
Yo, what does that word even mean?
And I hated it.
Bullshit!
I hated it by the 3rd episode, but by then I thought it was too late and might as well stick with it, which is another decision I regret, because I just hate this name.
I hate you guys so very, very much.
I want to take it out back and shoot it! So I did. Quit it, shot it, renamed it. And I couldn't think of a better series to reboot this show than the same one as before. From side-scrolling to world maps, 2D Mario games started it all. The original is arguably the most important game in history, and people get all pissy when you say that, but I'm not saying it's the only important game. But if you were to look up any GOAT list, would you really be surprised to see it all the way at the top? And don't confuse most important game with greatest game. It's like Zeppelin is the best band, but the Beatles are the most influential.
I think you've lost me.
But I digress. All the 2D Mario games, from the Bros to the Lands to the now old news, are universally adored, ageless, and imitated. We can all go back and revisit them when the mood strikes, but where do we go from here? Well, there are 2 factors that I think will decide the fate of classic 2D Mario. The obvious one is Mario Maker. While I don't think many people who play Mario Maker would ever pass on a new 2D Mario game, you have to wonder, what incentive does Nintendo have to make one when it's more cost-effective to just sit back as people pay to make their own games? Against my own wishes, I could totally see them pumping it full of paid DLC comprising skins, platforms, enemies, all the stuff. And that's just what I said about the Wii U version, presuming they would have just ported it to the Switch. Instead, they gave us a whole sequel with pipeloads of more content, a story mode with 100 of their own levels, and against my own expectations, free DLC that had a world map maker, which effectively allows us to make our own full Mario games. The plus side to all this is that after years of cease and desist letters shutting down fan games, Nintendo finally accepted people's aspirations to do what they do and harnessed it into something still a little bit unbelievable. They gave us the keys to the Mushroom Kingdom. The downside is that Super Mario Maker could be the swan song for 2D Mario games.
No.
It would be an amazing one, arguably the best one we could hope for, but still, it's strange from a business perspective that Nintendo would pump the brakes on their flagship gravy train, and sad from a fan's perspective to see one of the longest running traditions in gaming fade away.
No.
The second variable deciding 2D Mario's fate is not mobile, since I don't predict a future for Super Mario Run. I actually think it's heading in the opposite direction. Ever since the Switch launched, Nintendo has finally been retargeting the core gaming audience, rather than the casuals. You know, the core gamers. Those people who play games enough to actually spend money on consoles and $60 titles. Today, those games are grand in scale, and they've been on a noticeable path to scratch that bigger itch. My point is that 2D Mario games are not the big scratchers they used to be. Maybe back when the next best option was... But now, they would truly have to beef up what those games are.
We're gonna grease up these beefcakes.
No, come on! No!
But where would they even begin, and how can they revolutionize such a sacred formula? Introduce a new element to the world of Mario. None of the older games were anything alike, and each gave their own contribution to the Mario universe. The original set the framework, 2 was untouchably unique and introduced verticality and some classic enemies, 3 established world maps, a bunch more enemies, and the whole grass world, desert world, water world, you get it. World gave us Yoshi, and Yoshi's Island spawned a whole series of which it's still the only good entry if you ask me, but whatever. The Land series were each individually outlandish, and they gave us Daisy and Wario, and the new series is... The first was novel and was meant to attract older fans back into the fold, but the second was as generic as can be. They're decent games, but you know what they didn't do that a next 2D Mario game should? That the ones before them did? Something different. Not just better graphics, because that should come standard. And not some coin collecting bullshit.
Bullshit!
A new setting with new characters, a story that's not about a kidnapped princess for once, or maybe has a little more to it, or who needs anything new if they revisit this place, or even remake the Land series. There are so many underutilized assets, and it sucks because when I accept them as part of a fictional universe, I kinda wanna see them again. Like, I was stoked to see this guy make a reappearance in Odyssey, but at the same time, not a single Boo, or no Bob-ombs, or Shy Guys, or not even a Pokey in the Sand Kingdom? Is it greedy for me to want a game with all the classic things in it? Is there some lore inconsistency issue with that? I'm just saying, they make a Mario game where you can become all the enemies, but don't include my favorite fucking one?
Bullshit!
But whatever this new element is, it would have to blend into the Mario universe well enough to become a permanent fixture over time. So how else can they beef up the gameplay? New power-ups, or again, reviving older ones, a wider range of jumps like the 3D games, turning up the difficulty?
11.
But my big idea was always this. Side-scrolling platformers are all about moving side to side from start to finish, but only when they're diced up into levels. There's another type of side-scroller out there. How radical does a Mario Metroidvania sound?
Cool as crap!
I mean, that kinda seems like the most logical next step, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
Too many beefs!
Maybe Mario 3D World / Land is the direction they're taking. Basically a 2D Mario style game in a 3D space. And that would beef things down rather than up. But maybe they want 2D Mario to always be that familiar rock of nostalgia and keep it a casual family game.
I love family night.
We can't know anything until it happens, but when I first made this video, I asked myself something that I still haven't answered by the time that I remade it. Is there even room for an eternal pipeline of 2D Mario games when there are already so many games just like it? I think of it like this, it's kinda like The Simpsons. The Simpsons basically invented the whole animated sitcom of a dysfunctional family in a town full of quirky characters.
Hi, Super Nintendo Chalmers!
And it inspired countless copies like Family Guy and King of the Hill.
That's a video game.
But eventually, The Simpsons is gonna have to close the curtains.
No!
Nothing goes on forever as itself, but some things are embedded into culture so deeply that they inspire 1,000 spiritual successors. Perhaps there is no the future of 2D Mario.
He said it! He said it!
Mario's been in so many kinds of games, and there's still others. Only a few years ago was he given a gun and dropped in a tactical strategy game. Maybe next he'll get an FPS or a life sim. Or maybe one day we will get some of that sweet Mariovania. I mean, the whole genre of platformers was born from tech limitations, but now you can create pretty much any kind of game you can think up. So why would you make a game where you just run and jump around?
It is also cool as crap!
If Nintendo has enough tricks up its sleeve to keep 2D Mario fresh, other than a demographic that'll always make a day one purchase, then I have a few ideas that will work from both an artistic and a business perspective. Super Mario Maker Deluxe for the Switch was what I said in the original video before this came out. And ever since the World Map update, many of us have been asking, what's the point? But if they can find a point, then do it. Make a new 2D Mario, but make it a milestone. Make it different, make it difficult, and make a big new feature like Yoshi or the Overworlds. And finally, Mariovania.
Bullshit!